Hello there! How are you these days? Well done on completing the first four modules of the first quarter. We are now on the fifth module under quarter one, which is entitled Biodiversity and Evolution. And the most essential learning competency that we are going to target today is to relate species extinction to the failure of population of organisms to adapt to abrupt changes in the environment. So you better get ready of the following lessons and appreciate the wonders of nature. But before we start, I want every one of you to be reminded of the objectives so that you will successfully accomplish the tasks given in the module. For expectation number one, we have measure species distribution using mathematical way of expressing the amount of biodiversity and species distribution in a community. For number two, determine the pattern of population distribution. Number three, explain the probable causes of species extinction and the local and global environmental issues that contributed to species extinction. Number four, make a multimedia presentation of timeline of extinction of representative microorganisms, plants, and animals. So generally, you're expected to establish understanding how changes in the surroundings may affect species extinction. So what are the topics for today? Lesson number one is all about index of diversity. For lesson two, we have population density. In number three, causes of extinction. And in number four, we have local and global environmental issues. These are all the lessons that we are going to talk about today, which are anchored on a division-made module from SDO Caloocan and will provide you with various activities. And I hope you can answer them all and do your best with the following tasks. So have some fun while learning. In the following tasks and topics, you will be accompanied and treated to a pageant of life. From the tiniest unicellular organism to the majestic and magical beauty of the different trees in the forest, from the algae of the marine to the comparably eye-catching colors of the flowers, from the cuteness of the cat to the contagious and intrusive nature of some fungi. So basically, the theme of this module lesson is the concept of biodiversity and evolution, which bring up the phenomenon that the planet Earth is populated by tremendously and incredibly big amount of variability and variation of living things on land. You will learn that every single living thing has a captivating and remarkable story. Every life form on Earth has a home under the sun for the reason that every living thing is a substantial piece of nature. We are part of web of life, and we are all vital and significant because we are God's creation. It is overwhelming and amazing thought to know that no matter how small the living things are, they are still major part of the entire planet and belong to the secret of mystery of God's creation. But the questions are, why are there so many different and several species in our planet? How can we group them? And why do plants and animals take or share some common characteristics? We will find out the answer to this question as we go along with these topics in module number 5. So please listen attentively. Our planet Earth is said to be about 4.5 to 5 billion years old. For more than a billion years, there was not a single living thing on our planet. Fossil records showed and presented that life may have begun some 3.8 billion years ago in the form of primitive one-celled organism which is comparable to the reproducing bacteria that we know today. As their population nurtured, grew, developed, and improved, resources of nutrients and food become limited, and these species develop into more complex kinds. Why do species exhibit similarities and differences in characters? If all of us originated from diverse generations and ancestors, how did we improve and develop into millions of several species? And also, why do we differ from one another? You know what? Evolution is the answer to this question. But what is evolution? Evolution is defined as the transformation in a species over time. It is the reason of the so-called distinction of species. Different species develop as they become accustomed to their environment and to certain conditions of the habitats they occupy. If there are some adjustment in the surroundings, the population of the organism also changes. But what is population? Population is a group of living things within a certain area that are all of the same species. Different parts of ecosystems interrelate with one another. Changes to one part can have an effect to other parts. And this population is under the concept of biological species, which is defined as all populations that are potentially capable of interbreeding among themselves, but most of the time they are reproductively isolated from members of other species. These are some of the illustration of population. Looking at the photos, what did you notice? How many different kinds of species do you think you will see? Which species do you think dominates the community or the area? Several different populations may be found in one community. A population of one kind may shake a population of another. Like the following pictures here, you can see the same kind of species in one particular area. Here you can see a coconut plantation and a jungle. What do you think is the difference between the two? Coconut plantation is an example of population, wherein you can only see one kind of living thing, which is the coconut. That is why it is an example of population. However, a jungle is an example of biodiversity. Do you have any idea about biodiversity? Biodiversity refers to the number, variety, and variability of living things on planet Earth. Bio means life, and diversitas means variety or difference. Biodiversity comprises of varied living things occupying planet Earth. We can find different kinds of species of animals and plants in different places all around the world. Best example is the jungle. Biodiversity is significant landscape and characteristics of ecosystem which is pertinent to the number of several species they contain. Actually, biodiversity is the wealth and treasure of all life forms on our planet nowadays, which is furthermore the creation and product of billions of years. Biodiversity pertains to the presence of various species of plants and animals in a specific situation or area. Biodiversity is very important part of our planet. Why? Because it preserves our life support system on planet Earth and contributes to environmental sustainability. Another thing is it offers for present and future generation in terms of biological resources. And there are levels of biodiversity. Number one is the genetic diversity, which is the entirety of totality of genetic information found in the genes. One classic example of that is banana. There are so many different variety of banana like apple banana, Cavendish banana, ladyfinger banana, red banana, the green, yellow banana. In our country, these are commonly called latundan, lakatan, señorita, and saba. They are different variety of banana in terms of genetic information, but still they are all banana. Second level of biodiversity is the species diversity, which quantify the number of different species. Best example of this is the tiger. We have Siberian, Bengal, Indo-Chinese, and Malayan tiger, and many more. The third level is what we call ecosystem diversity, which measure the different amount of ecosystems like forest, grassland, desert, tundra, freshwater, and marine. So as you can see, our planet is a home for many different kinds of animals and plants. That is how magical our planet is. How can we associate the Philippine diversity with other places around the globe? Biodiversity is often connected or linked with tropical rainforest. One perfect example of biodiversity is the jungle, wherein several species of plants and animals are seen and observed. There is a variety of life in the jungle, and there are so many different kinds of populations there. In a jungle community, some populations such as ants, ferns, fungi, squirrel, lion, tiger, birds can be seen in a very large number. Other populations like snake have lesser member. Why do you think population sizes vary among organisms? Some populations are small and some are big. And to discover the answer to this question, we have to study population density. Index of diversity provide the scientists a concrete, tangible, and uniform technique to talk about and equate the biodiversity of several areas. Index of diversity is a quantitative measure that reflects how many different types of species are there in a community. Species change over time by evolution. This includes variation, speciation, and phylogeny. Variation discusses the changes and variation in characters of organisms in a population due to genetic recombination and mutation. Speciation is the development, growth, and expansion of new species from the current one, while on the other hand, phylogeny is the study regarding the evolutionary changes and development among organisms. So communities with many different species will be able to withstand environmental changes better than the communities with only few species. This is what we call high and low index. What is the difference between these two kinds of diversity? Here is an example of high index of diversity. What did you notice? As you can see, there are many different kinds of species. A number of animals like cow, carabao, horse are placed in an area. There are plenty of plants to serve as a food for their population to grow, and they are shown to be healthy and multiply faster. While the low index of diversity means communities with few species. So for today, we are going to work in different activities to help you understand the changes in the population and the factors that affects the growth and the size of the population. And we also going to study more about the necessities and characteristics of population. Population can be of similar size, but they have different densities. What is population density? It refers to the number of individuals in an area. When we reflect through the amount of individuals per unit area, we are denoting the density of the population. Transformation in population density in any community may be accredited to many factors. Here are the threats to biodiversity such as habitat destruction, alien invasive species, genetic pollution, overexploitation, hybridization, climate change, and diseases. But how are we going to compute for the density of the population? Here is an example. Suppose there are 80 spiders that live in a 5 square meter garden. What would be the population density of the spiders? What would be the population if 100 spiders live in an 8 square meter garden? So let us find the answer using the formula given a while ago. The first thing to do is to identify the given, which are the following. Number of organisms is equals to 80 spiders. The area is 5 square meter. And the formula that we are going to apply is the density, which is equal to the number of organisms divided by the area. So let us substitute this value to the formula. So we have 80 spiders and then divide it by the number of square meter, which is 5. And the result is 16 spiders per square meter. How about you? You can try to solve the second question. What would be the population if 100 spiders live in a square meter garden? Okay, you can now start answering the problem applying this formula. So let's see the answer. The given and number 2 questions are the following. 100 spiders for the organism number and a square meter for the area. Applying the formula, we can get 100 spiders divided by 8, and the result is 12.5 spiders per square meter. So here are some factors that contributes to the change in sizes of population within a certain area. First, we have limiting factors. These are the factors that limit or restrict the condition of the survival of the organism. Example are food, water, light, temperature, and soil nutrients. When we say limiting factors, these are any resource or environmental situation which limits the growth, spreading, or abundance of an organism or population in an ecosystem. Conversely, there is certain quantity of organism in a species that an environment can support, and that is what we call carrying capacity. It is the amount or number that an environment can hold and support. and this is controlled by limiting factors such as space, food, water, shelter, and climatic condition. If the population is near the carrying capacity, resources become limited to living things. And if the population exceeds the carrying capacity, deaths of our organism may take place because the number of organisms are too much and the environment cannot support all the needs of our organism. That is why it can result to death of some organism living in that particular community. So it is very important that communities should live under the carrying capacity of the environment so that sustainable development would be achieved. Before we proceed to the next lesson, please be reminded of the following things. First, population sizes vary among organisms. Limiting factors are environmental conditions that keep population from increasing in size and help balance ecosystem. And last one, the carrying capacity is the maximum population size an environment can support. Life depends on life. Humankind and animals cannot exist without green plants. We are dependent on plants for food and nutrients. But what happens if the living conditions of these organisms are not ideal for their survival? What do you think will happen if some environmental problem arise? So, to answer this question, let us take a look at the next slide. When a species population becomes so low that only a few remain, the species is said to be endangered, and there's a greater chance that it will become extinct. In the Philippines, some terrestrial species like tamaraw in Mindoro, mouse deer in Palawan, Philippine deer, monkey-eating eagle, and aquatic species like dugong found in Negros, Batangas, and Leyte are all in danger of extinction. There will come a time that there is a specific species that deteriorates so fast and turn out to be endangered and is considered to be threatened. And the worst of all is that the animals can become extinct. So what is extinction? Extinction is, is the disappearance of a species when the last of its members die. Alteration to habitats of the animals can threaten organisms with extinction. As population of people increase and improve, the influence of progress and development is varying the face of the earth and pushing many other species and variety of animals to the brink of extinction. Human activities give rise to habitat loss and degradation that have accelerated or speed up the rate of extinction. So let us now know the causes of extinction. Causes of extinction are divided into two, the anthropogenic and the natural causes. What is the difference between the two? Take a look at this diagram. Anthropogenic causes are basically due to human activities, and it comprises the following, such as habitat destruction, invasive species, pollution, population growth, overharvesting, and overhunting. On the other hand, natural causes are due to environmental factors such as these: overspecialization, competition, sudden climate change, and catastrophic events. Several animals nowadays are endangered, threatened, or worse, they are considered extinct, which means that they totally disappear in our planet. We should know the reason behind the disappearance of many animals. What do you think are the causes of extinction? To know the answer, take a look at this. These are the local and global environmental problems that put threat to the lives of animals and most probably the main cause of extinction of animals. These are the deforestation, water pollution, destruction of coastal resources, wildlife depletion, air pollution, and acid precipitation. As you notice, they are all action of mankind or man's activities. And to better understand these problems, let us study them one by one. One of the country's environmental difficulty is the speedy rate at which trees are cut down. Illegal logging is the procedure of cutting down of trees, transporting and moving them to other places, and selling them in violation of the law. It is illegal for the reason that it gains access or extraction to forests lacking permission. By cutting down of trees, numerous animals in the forest lost their natural habitat. As a consequence of cutting down trees, the following effects could happen, such as soil erosion, floods, decline of wildlife resources, and many more. Countless animals have lost their habitat due to illegal logging. We know already that forest is the major habitat of several animals. It is where they live, eat, and survive. But due to cutting down of trees, animals will have no place to live. It is either animals will migrate to find new home, where there is a chance that they cannot adapt to their surroundings and will not be able to survive, or the animals may die along the way. This decrease in wildlife resources could eventually lead to extinction. In the Philippines, the main cause of deforestation are kaingin farming, illegal logging, conversion of agricultural lands to housing projects, forest fires, and typhoons. Kaingin system is one reason of extinction of animals. Why? The jungle forest is the number one natural habitat of wildlife, but it is being burned by several people. That is why so many animals are dying, because they were no place to go. Others cannot adapt to the new environment. The result is they will die. Deforestation is one of the major causes of disappearance of wildlife species. What will take place if animals are driven away from their natural habitat? If they cannot discover enough space for them, they will die, disappear, or become extinct. Some species may become endangered. What do you mean by that? They are in the verge of becoming extinct. These are all examples of endangered species. A while ago, we talked about the deforestation as one of the reasons why animals become extinct. But aside from that, there are other causes. Let's find them. Water pollution. Some people throw their garbage and waste into the bodies of water, which will eventually give rise to some other effects of pollutants which can harm people and animals. What is that effect? A major problem in lakes, rivers, and ponds is called eutrophication. What do you mean by that? It takes place when a concentration of organic nutrients that comes from domestic garbage are thrown into the bodies of water. It increases quickly, and one of the effects of water pollution. It is supposed to be a slow process, but man's activities speed it up. And to further elaborate this concept, take a look at this diagram. This diagram presents the causes and stages of eutrophication in the bodies of water. Take a look. Waste and chemicals are carried into the young lake. This garbage and chemicals speed up or increases the growth of algae. When algae die, it settles to the bottom of any bodies of water, and then they begin to decay or decompose, which in turn trigger the buildup of bacteria. This bacteria will cause the decomposition and uses up the oxygen present in the water. The result is oxygen in the water will no longer accessible for other aquatic and marine animals because it has been used up by the bacteria. The next thing that will happen is that the animals in the bodies of water will die due to the absence of oxygen. Aside from eutrophication, there is another effect of water pollution. Another impact is the mass death of fish, or in other words, the fish kill. Are you familiar with fish kill? Fish kill takes place when there is a growth in the concentration of organic nutrients in the bodies of water. Have you seen such a scenario or event in your area zone? How did this happen? Here, this situation causes algal bloom and growth of aquatic plants. As soon as the algae die, they go down to the bottom of the water and the method of decomposition will occur. This utilizes up oxygen, and the end result is that aquatic animals die due to absence of oxygen. So bodies of water are also contaminated with toxic waste, untreated mess, sewage, and fertilizer runouts from farmhouse and lands. One example of dangerous chemical present in the water is the PCB. What is PCB? PCB stands for polychlorinated biphenyl. PCB are toxic waste created in the production of paints, inks, and electrical insulators. Through the process of biological magnification, the PCB turned out to be concentrated in the body tissues of water organisms. Biological magnification is the buildup of pollutants in organisms at higher trophic levels in food chain. Fish existing in contaminated ecosystems have high concentration of PCB. In this scenario, many fishes died, but the fishes were not destroyed by these PCB chemicals, but instead, these chemicals stored in their body tissue. And then, as the salmon feeds on the smaller fish, the salmon will also take the PCB present in the body tissue of the smaller fishes. The salmon was not killed by the PCB, but rather, it stored the PCB in their tissues. The concentration of PCB in the salmon has escalated to 5,000 times compared to the concentration of PCB in the water in which it fed. Other pollutants found in the water are heavy metals such as lead, mercury, and cadmium. These metals come from factories that dump their waste into the rivers or lakes. Pollution is one of the main root of species extinction, and there are so many kinds of pollution aside from water. Do you know that cars and other means of transportation are one of the major contributors to air pollution? Pollutants can come into the air as gas, liquids, or solids. Why? Because cars and vehicles burn fuel, and which yield toxic gases, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and hydrocarbons. There is a boundless volume of cars which travel each day nationwide, and it's very hard to imagine the huge amount of pollutants and particulates that these vehicles are emitting each and every day, and that is why you can see a smog which covers the area with nitrogen oxide and hydrocarbon from the exhaust of the car, and that will react with water vapor or dust particles, which will eventually trigger the production of new irritating chemicals. Carbon dioxide acts like a blanket cover the air, keeping the heat that would otherwise radiate back into the space. The trapping of heat by gases in the Earth's atmosphere is called greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is natural process. When the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere rises, greenhouse effect also intensify this, which will lead to global warming. Global warming pertains to an increase in the Earth's temperature from the speedy buildup of carbon dioxide and additional gases. This in turn could alter the world climate patterns. And these are the domino effects of air pollution. Are there factories in your range? Burning of coal by factories and power plants are also main contributors to air pollution. Coal has sulfur. When coal burns sulfur and combines with oxygen, it will form sulfur dioxide. What is that? Sulfur dioxide has a choking odor. Power plants likewise burn coal to give up particulates into the air. Particulates are minute particles of soot, dust, and smoke. These particulates block sunlight and get into your lungs when you inhale. Do you see smog and smell foul odor and often wonder where it originates from? Well, your area might be a victim of air pollution from the factories nearby. Pollution is just one among the environmental problems faced by mankind due to some humans' activity. Do you reside near the coastal areas? Can you still think of the times when you and your families went to the seashore to gather and collect seashells? Or have fun with your friends with some corals? Coral reefs and coastal mangrove forests in our country function as the breeding grounds and nurseries of marine fishes. But because of man's activities, coastal areas are getting destroyed through the years, and destruction of coastal resources is another global and environmental problem faced by humankind. Some mass activities which are considered the primary reason why coastal resources are being destroyed are the following, like deforestation, some agricultural activities, and mining activities. Dynamite fishing, and muroami are also one of the human activities that put threat into the lives of aquatic animals. Coastal areas renovation to beach resorts and residential areas are also one of the reasons. Overharvesting is another principal cause of death of animals. Instead, they are still enjoying their lives in the place where they belong. They are being harvested in a massive number in which many organisms die. Some creatures are harvested prematurely. That is why loss of wildlife are increasing significantly. And another problem is the acid precipitation. Acid precipitation is rain commonly known as the acid rain. Rainwater is usually acidic because carbon dioxide is generally present. Other pollutants, typically sulfur and nitrogen oxide, creates rainwater even more acidic, with a pH of 5.6 or lower. Emission and other discharge from factories and from exhaust of motor and other cars are some illustrations of pollutants. Acid rain can be destructive to living things. It grounds for the yellowing of leaves of the trees and cause the leaves of the trees to fall. So these are the causes and effects of acid rain. Due to human activities, we are now facing so many global and environmental problems that seems too difficult to solve. But it is not too late to take an action. If we will start now in taking good care of our ecosystem, we can be able to save our planet, be united, and be responsible with our action. Love and respect all things on earth, including animals and plants, so that we can achieve balanced ecosystem. When you say balanced ecosystem, it is the one wherein all living and non-living things are actively interacting with one another. They are showing a give and take relationship in which one organism is dependent into one another. For example, we as human beings are dependent on plants for food. Other animals are dependent on other animals for nutrients and food. Many animals are living in the jungle because that place provides them shelter and food to stay alive. So they are showing a mutual relationship. That is, if one organism is damaged or disturbed, other organism will be affected. One big challenge confronting mankind is the practice of the so-called sustainable development. This means that a sustainable humanity should live under the carrying capacity of the environment. This also means that the degree at which people uses renewable resources does not go beyond the rate at which the resources are produced. Truly, our planet is a beautiful place to live in. A lot of resources are given to us. Even if there are so many environmental problems all around the world, it is not too late to renew our nature. All we need to do is to unite and stand our ground in taking care of our planet, not only for present time, but most importantly for the future generation to come. Be positive and responsible with our action, and most of all, respect our environment. And that concludes our discussion for today. I hope you learned something today which you can apply to real life situation. And before we end up, please be reminded of the following things. Quiz number 5 in Google Form, Module number 5 in Google Classroom, and performance tasks in Google Classroom also. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.